This here is Ivy. Ivy was housed with another adult Syrian hamster. And if proper information was given to the owners at the time of buying these two hamsters at Petsmart, then you would not see what you're about to see. Viewer discretion is advised because what you're about to see is scabs. But this is for educational purposes only, so here is Ivy's back. As you can see, scabs. So when she was housed with Willow, which is the other Syrian hamster, unfortunately Willow just ate apart poor Ivy's back. She actually has scabs everywhere on her body. In the back, that is. But to think that she got beat up by another Syrian hamster, because look at that scab in the back there. Look at that big one. She is on antibiotics right now. The scab should not be as painful as it was when they were still being housed together. This could all have been avoided if Petsmart would do its job in training their employees to make sure no sales of multiple Syrian hamsters should go to one person at the same time, because what employees at pet stores should be doing is asking questions to guarantee the safety of these animals. So here is Willow and Ivy's story. Hello Munchkins and viewers alike, it's me Munchie and welcome to my rescues intake story of two rescued hamsters off of Craigslist named Willow and Ivy. As you saw in the beginning, Ivy is in not good condition. She has her back all chewed up and she did give me this boo-boo here because she did not want to be held, and I understand that too because I get their body language. They just are squirmy, they don't want to settle. She wasn't comfortable, but I wanted to show you her since she's now in my possession. So let's talk from the very beginning of how this happened and hopefully to educate and enlighten you guys why housing multiple Syrians together is not cute. It is absolutely not cute. If you see it in the pet stores, it's because they come in very young. When they're around like 2 months old, these girls are adult Syrian hamsters, and unfortunately Petsmart, where they got them from, does have care guides that literally say on the care guides themselves, solitary. Housing alone. Thank you for making it very obvious to be housing alone. So knowing that Petsmart neglected their own care guides and this person rehomed these animals, you can tell Petsmart has much different vibe than places like Petco. And yes, I'm comparing them both because they get compared all the time. But anyways, Petsmart, I feel like, sees their animals as items, especially since they don't have a legit adoption program. Because their adoption program, if you ask, is taking those animals that are sick, injured, elderly, taking them off of the sales floor and putting them in the back for adoption without even letting people know. Unless people are interested in the animal species itself, then they will mention it, but they are just clearing their inventory from the sales floor. So when one doesn't sell or when one gets returned with their 2-week return policy to the store, it automatically goes into their adoption program where you pay a fee of $0, but basically Petsmart is clearing out their animals and they don't intake any animals at their store. Versus Petco, if anybody asks to surrender, say, a small animal like a hamster or a gerbil, then they can, if they have the room, will take in that animal, and that is such a better job than what Petsmart's doing. Because like I said before, Petsmart only values their animals as items because, oh, if you're getting a hamster, make sure to get our cage, or oh, hey, if you're interested in our cage, you should get a hamster. I mean, the whole point of the Tiny Tales line at Petsmart right now is to entice people who are walking through the stores with like their bigger animals, like their cats or dogs, and literally going, ooh, Mom, that's a pretty cage. I want that cage. Well, honey, we don't have a hamster. And then they start wanting a hamster because they like the sight of a cage that looks like a toy, and it gets so bad. But anyways, Petsmart here, knowing their care guides say Syrians are solitary, and knowing this employee, which I'm not going to say hunt them down, but I would like to know the store which this person got them from, because I think I have an idea of the store, and I would like to at least call in and ask people if they are aware, if they know Syrians are solitary, not to sell them together. But when you have a store that has messed up this badly, to put the animals in danger after they go home is bad and awful, and I wish people wouldn't push pet sales in their pet store because they most of the time are not doing a very good job. Now, I've met plenty of Petsmart employees out there, and even a few of them have recognized me. Hi, hello, pleasure to meet you guys. But not all pet store employees are bad. There's just the company that is not doing a good job, because the training videos that these stores, including Petco, even though I've been giving Petco thumbs up on a few things, they have been pretty bad elsewhere, because all you ever get in those training videos from those stores are how to clean a cage and what to look out for if an animal is sick, eye crusties, being lethargic, and a bunch of other stuff that doesn't go into actually good details, especially when it comes to hamsters with wet tails. They really don't talk about hamsters with wet tails when they come in, the Syrians, and it's so common. I mean, the first time when I was at a pet store and learned about wet tails, even though I knew what wet tail was, there was a lot of wet tail hamsters from the suppliers that they were getting them from, and they were like, hey, you guys gotta stop sending us this or we're just done. So a lot of the times it is unfortunately the supplier's fault, and they get their animals sick and injured, and suppliers tend to cut corners because they're from breeding mills and they don't care about health or genetics. They just care about, hey, if a pet store wants a pretty hamster, they're gonna get a pretty hamster. We gotta make the pretty hamsters prettier, okay? Okay. In this case, Petsmart sold this owner one cage for 2 hamsters, 2 adult hamsters that you clearly saw in my hand. One was Ivy, and they sold them in this. Now, this is a brand new cage that came out at the end of fall of 2019, where I was actually tempted to review this. This cage right here comes with 2 supplies of their All Living Things Power of 5 hamster and gerbil diets right here. 2 bags, this cage, guess how much money it is. Hey folks, come right up, get your cage. Here you have this cage. It's $59.99, $59.99. It's a wonderful deal. You want this, I know you do, yeah you do. Sold. Yeah, no. 2 hamsters in this cage, and my volunteer who actually rescued these guys and kept them for a little bit till our snowstorm passed so she can transport them into my care, at least one of them, because she's actually fostering Willow. Willow's completely fine, but she believes that Ivy was always at the top here, trying to get away from Willow, because they fought automatically when she got them from the owner. So let's talk about the owner. Now, I am trying to move away from being too opinionated, just because I want to at least respect people, because, you know, A, they're trying to rehome this animal, but at the same time, they could be rehoming for the wrong intentions. But when you get a vibe from somebody, especially when you think it's a very neglectful vibe, then I will discuss it. And here it was not neglectful intentional, but it was like, are you really? Are you serious? So you saw the scabs on Ivy, right? We were told when we were looking over the animal, hey, her back doesn't look good. She looks really bad. What's going on here? And the owner said, oh, she's always looked that way. She's always had scab wounds? What? What? So ever since she got the hamsters, they've had scabs? So yes, this was a are you dumb moment, but at the same time it's like, it's obvious that there is something horribly wrong with this animal, and yet you let this continue on for a couple months, because this owner did have him for a couple months, and we do not know the reason for rehoming, because at the end of the day, they rehome them. There's not much you can do. What you guys might be thinking is, well, maybe she knew. When interacted with, she definitely made it sound like she did not know that it was a bad thing and everything was hunky-dory and okay, especially the screams from inside the cage when the girls were fighting. She was just, I don't know. I do not know. So unfortunately, this person just did not seem like they intentionally did it. They just seemed like they were so dumbfounded, and it really breaks my heart. And this is probably a good reason why you should be doing your research, for 1, before getting an animal, so you can understand the animal. 2, do not always trust a pet store, all right? Even if they seem like they provided the best care, you should also be the judge of that too, and go online and double check that information in case this pet store does seem a little bit shady, or the animals are maybe fighting or not being well kept. But it was just a nightmare to see them inside of here in those photos, and just to see her back all chewed up. But then 3, if you see wounds like scabs on a hamster like that, that is not normal. And what people should do if they are alarmed by what they see, which she should have been with those horrible scab wounds to all of her body, all of her hind body, that is. I'm glad that none of her face got chewed up at all. And I'm glad she's alive because wow, that back and just feeling, you can't really feel it. I can feel it, but you can't feel it through the camera, but you can see it through the camera. Willow could have killed Ivy, and that is horrible because Willow has no scratches on her. So Ivy wasn't very defensive and she was just left wide in the open because really there's no way these hamsters, especially with that wheel, which we will talk about here soon, they're not gonna fit it. They are absolutely not. So I want to say it's unintentional neglect, but it is neglect because really there's no excuse. There's absolutely no excuse to be like, oh yeah, we could just play that off. It's totally fine. It's not like they knew. It's just, it's so weird. It's so weird to describe that they did not understand what they were seeing and thought that it was fine and natural. It was definitely not. So the wheel in here, and I have not measured this cage, by the way, guys, and for those of you who know, 450 square inches in the United States is the minimum square inch. That does not mean that is what you should be getting your hamster all the time, because each hamster and each hamster species is different. So you know how minimum is like at the very low end of the scale. Say it's like a 1 out of 10. So 1 would be bare minimum, 10 would be like the wild pretty much, but we will never be able to get to the size of what they have in the wild, of course, with their territory ranging 5 to 10 miles because that's how far they travel foraging and stuff. But I want to say, like, for instance, Hopping Hammy, let's throw her in here because she has wonderful videos of her cage and her DIY huge cage. I want to say that's more like a 7 or an 8 out of 10. It's so massive, it's so huge, it almost takes up a whole bedroom. It's pretty freaking neat. So this would be below 1, by the way. This would be like -3 degrees. This is going back in care. This would be technically 0 because it is a scale below the minimum, which is the 1 at the moment. But in the United Kingdoms, for those people overseas, hey, how's it going? Your square inch minimum, which I found out via a hamster forum, was about 620 square inches. People were asking me where I found that. That was on one of the hamster groups, whether it be Facebook, which I think maybe it was one of the Hamster UK Facebook groups, or the Hamster Hideouts. I remember seeing it somewhere. And then supposedly in Germany, the minimum is, oh gosh, I want to say it is in the 800 square inch range for Germany for a minimum. I believe people were saying 860. Does that sound right, guys? I think so. But anyways, main viewers are in the United States, and the United States is where you find these horrible dinky cages. This is definitely not 450 square inches. 450 square inches would be like a 110 quart Sterilite bin cage. DIY mesh lid. Woo! Or a 40-gallon burrito tank, which is 648 square inches. Ooh. Fancy. Or the Preview 528 cage that's 608 through 612 square inches, depending on which cage you get. I actually have a few different Preview cages because they went through, I guess, a mass production stage where they began making weird designs that were mass produced, and the quality of the Preview kind of went down by a little bit, especially with the bars. It still works and it's still functional, but depending on which model you get, you might get one that's around those in range for the floor space. But anyways, the wheel in here is the stuff that I'm really worried about. So let me just take the top off because the wheel needs to be in the enclosure 24/7 so the hamsters can run on it. Because like I said, they get their energy out in the wild, and female Syrian hamsters, which we have here today, both ladies are female Syrians, they go into heat every 4 to 6 days, usually about 4 days. And they go into heat all the way up until they're over a year old or older. I actually have a few that were in their 2-year range and they were still going into heat every often, and I was amazed by that. But you will need a wheel for Syrians around 10 to 12 inches or 14 inches if you were to get the Exotic Nutrition treadmill wheel that's 14 inches. That's pretty impressive, and their backs will not curve on that. Nopey nope, sir. But when you get a wheel like this, where the Syrian is bigger than the wheel, and they absolutely need a wheel, and when you get these cages, these starter cages that supposedly hook you up for life in their opinions, you get sizes like this where it's not not fits all. Don't you just hate it when you get a shirt that says this fits all sizes and it clearly does not fit all sizes because it's tiny? So this right here, if I remember correctly, is a 5-inch wheel, but I think it's even a 4.5-inch wheel. So I don't have my measuring tape before I hit record on my camera, and I do not want to be getting up and trying to find it right now. But Petsmart's All Living Things had their own older style cages, and we actually have a few of these wheels that they did not increase in size at all. And this is actually one of the wheels that Miss Frizzle, the second ever foster hamster in our care, was using. It was a Petsmart wheel. Remember that, guys? It was red. But anyways, this is tiny. You would be able to hold her up in it like this, but she's not gonna be able to run in it like this. That is awful. And for 2 months, they only had to share one chew toy. And look how ratty within 2 months this is. Now, for any pet owner out there, you would think that this is pretty excessive, right? I mean, this is a lot of chewing, but you know, they are known to be chewers. But the thing is that they should not chew this much within 2 months. You should provide multiple chews, at least start off with 5 different textured chews that they can choose from, and they will gnaw on it every now and again. They are not supposed to be gnawing on it every day. Syrians, they can if they want to grind their teeth, but for dwarf hamsters, I've noticed they will gnaw on things every once in a while. They instinctively will gnaw when they must, or when they are bored, or for instance when they're stressed. Usually bored and stress go like hand in hand for these small animals, because when you put them inside a small enclosure, their stress levels increase, and that also increases their core body temperature too. And these guys are stress prone. So if they're stress prone and they're constantly in a state of stress, then they have weaker immune systems. And when you have a weaker immune system, everybody, what happens? You get sick. And what happens to these guys? They will get sick. Their immune system will have a harder time trying to fight off whatever is going on. They can, hamsters, develop cancer. And when they do get cancer, unfortunately, because we've had a lot pass due to cancer and cancerous tumors and skin cancer, oh, that was horrible. If you ever have a hamster with skin cancer, it was very traumatic for me as a child when I had a hamster with skin cancer. Usually for small animals, when they get cancer, that is it for them. There is really no cure when a hamster has cancer. So you want to make sure that you can get them from point A to point B in a happy, stressless environment, because you can cherish them a whole lot better and get along with them when you have a more relaxed animal. So, Petsmart, what are you telling these people, Petsmart? That, hey, these guys are just like items, you know, it doesn't matter because, hey, if they have a dead hamster within 1 week or 2 weeks, they'll come back, right? Unfortunately, there is people, even in the hamster groups, that says, hey, I'm being sold at this store multiple hamsters that get wet tail instantly and pass away, which that means if they're getting wet tail all the time, it's either a supplier issue or somebody is not cleaning out the enclosure of which the wet tail hamster was in. If you're not cleaning and sanitizing that correctly, you are passing off whatever that previous hamster had, and that is deadly and dangerous. So unfortunately, due to this, a lot of the times people are like, that's it, we're not doing this anymore. We tried to get into hamster care and we just couldn't. And it was because of crappy stores like Petsmart here, Petsmart. So unfortunately, this owner for 2 months had them and then got rid of them. It is unfortunate that people cannot enjoy these creatures because they are not provided the correct information at the pet store which they sell them. Why sell the animal, Petsmart, if you cannot correct this behavior from your employees? When you hire people, you should also make sure that your team leads can provide the correct information. If they're not providing the correct information, you need to rethink about why you're selling living animals if you cannot provide their safety when they leave your store, okay? Because Ivy could have died because of your improper information to rehome two at the same time and have them fight it out in their really tiny new environment, which of course you are pushing your employees to promote because your training videos are promoting the inappropriate care so you can get money. There's no excuse at this point, and you have not listened. Whereas Petco at least has listened about, hey, maybe we should be providing bigger enclosures and listening to our customers and want to hear your feedback and want to partner with people because they care. Petsmart, what have you been doing? Making fake reviews and passing out these cages to people to give you a positive review on them. I do not like your tactics. I don't shop at Chewy. I don't like to shop at Petsmart. Sometimes I will, but I really wish Petsmart would listen and learn and not provide the most incorrect information out there on improper care. I saved 2 hamsters from Petsmart's mistakes. I'm not going to be able to save them all. I know people all the time ask me, hey, can you save this? Can you save that? I'm not going to be able to. What we need to do, everybody, is educate the uneducated. Make sure everybody is provided the correct information. Sometimes they may not want to hear it, and you got to approach it correctly and not be insensitive about the other person on the other end. So if you happen to see incorrect care online, please be respectful to that person and approach with kindness and compassion rather than anger and frustrations.